Hello friends, and welcome to the latest episode of One with the Films. We're recording here live our episode number 42 with the dyad in the Force. So thank you so much for joining us. Choco, are you watching TikToks? All right, let's have a look. Let's add you into your into the thingy as well. Here we go. Accept. Perfect. And then yeah, on your phone you can just mute it turn the volume down as well so it doesn't do loops. But yeah, all right, we're good to go, guys. So I'm gonna kick us off with a quick little intro. Let me just get my little script up and yeah, drive. But the movie we watched was Jung-E, which was really interesting. Oh, that's my work Google Drive, not the podcast one. Boom, boom, and well, I'm going to get into it a little bit with Pep as well, because this was Pep's recommendation. So we'll do the intro quickly, and then we'll dive into some of the why Pep chose this film for us, and all of that as well. So audio levels look good. Okay, cool. So in 2194, big corporations still suck, to the point that they'd leave your war heroine mother in a coma after a failed mission and then clone and implant her brain into an android to sell her to fans for less than savory uses. But you know what doesn't suck? Good old-fashioned homegrown podcasts with your best bud. But alas, mine is not here today, so instead I've used my nepotism connections to get myself an audience with a fellow pair of best buds running a podcast, and that's the crew from Dyad in the Force. And you may know them from their hours and hours of TikTok content diving deep into the intricacies of Star Wars canon and Legends material. We've got a couple of lore masters dropping knowledge bombs on the uneducated on a daily basis, and these are two of the smartest and coolest dudes I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, and diving deep into our love of films and sci-fi, and of course Star Wars with as well. So welcome to Pep and Choco, to the One with the Films podcast. Who wants to go first, guys? Say g'day. No. New Zealand. Yeah. Hold that thought for 2 seconds, Pep. My desktop audio is not pulling anything up. 1 second. Properties. It should be here. Talk for me.
Hello.
Okay, cool. Now it's grabbing you. That's annoying. But at least I was the only one talking beforehand, so we're fine. So I can timecode this and cut, but do you want to go back just to your intro there? Feel free to do it in Australian again. That was beautiful.
Yeah, sure. I'm underscore element saving underscore. I'm from the very Aussie background of or backyard of California, and yeah, you know, standard Star Wars lore master and nerd. I'll also drop it here. My interests are, you know, everything that's relevant today: Marvel, Star Wars, all of that good stuff. Anime, lots of anime as well. But yeah, my main goal, my main channel is largely to share the love of the lore of Star Wars and make sure people are operating on the best and most effective information as possible. As we've seen in the last few years, a lot of people's outlooks and perspectives on Star Wars originate from misinformation, like the most I guess egregious example would be Rey doesn't have any training. Why is she a pro pilot? And my answer to that would be she's not a pro pilot. So we just need to kind of establish those facts first and foremost until before we can get into any kind of nitty gritty discourse. But yeah, I'm going to throw it over to my other half, the other dyad in the Force, Darth Choco.
Hello there. Yeah, no, largely the same. I'm Darth Choco, Darth Choco on TikTok, Darth Choco on YouTube, Darth Choco7 on Twitter. And yeah, largely the same. Big time, Star Wars fan, content creator, reading books, comics, all that stuff. Been in the lore since day one. And love to just talk about it and explain it and meet other fans. Because I don't know, man. I know Star Wars is. It's a rough fan base. There's a lot of crap, but the cool people in that fan base are the coolest people of any fan base. So it's worth it if you're strong enough. To quote Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black. Anyways, all things, all things geeky and nerdy is my jam. Specifically, space fantasy is where my heart lies. Gaming, comics, it's all of it, all the good shit. Yeah, well, I'm so glad to have both of you here, so thanks again for coming down, and I'm really keen to check out this film as well, which we'll get into in just a sec. But for listeners, you can find One with the Films anywhere you get your podcasts. It's on Apple, Spotify, and live and on demand on YouTube, so you can join us here for a stream and join and discuss in chat if you've seen the film, or you can check it out on Spotify afterwards as well. And be sure to stick around to the end of the episode as well, because we'll be announcing who our next guest. I was New Zealand in that part. But we'll be announcing who our next guest is, as well as our next film. So that'll be an interesting one. For long-time listeners, you'll know exactly what you're in for if you've been around for a while, obviously, but welcome on back. If you're uninitiated, however, and you've just spontaneously stumbled across our little corner of the internet, this is One with the Films, and this segment is called The Weekly Watch List, where we're back with a new film every single week. And the cheeky gimmick here is that in every one of our episodes ever, someone is watching someone else's favorite film or a recommendation of theirs for the first time. And then we get to hang out here and talk about it for a little while in the afternoon, which is really great. It's the best place to be if you're working through a pesky watch list, or if you're looking to add a few new films to it as well, like our backlog of films you can see on our Letterboxd list as well. And it has all the films we've watched on there, and some of the stuff is like, just things that we should have seen, like Die Hard or Groundhog Day. And then we have a bunch of other stuff in there, like Swedish horror films and like Japanese horror films by like Nobuhiko Obayashi in the 70s, and it's wild. So if you want a watch list, check out our backlog. It is wicked. But the film that we're watching is Jung-E. It's a Korean sci-fi film that dropped on Netflix and it actually came out last year, so it's a fairly new film. And Pep, you recommended this one to us. So before we dive into an actual deep conversation on the film and a lot of what we sort of prep to talk about it, I'd love to know why this film.
Yeah, so as I turn into Nicolas Cage, I feel like I wanted to recommend this film because it is a film that is one with the films.
Paddington 2.
I always let's turn into John Wick. I always consider myself a big fan of things that mirror Baba Yaga. No. So the movies that really resonate with me the most, whether it's sci-fi, high fantasy, comedy, romance, is always the movies that kind of have a certain aspect of ethical value and morality to kind of question. Mm-hmm. And we don't get that much in comedy, but it's always the stuff that resonates with me.
We watched Baby Assassins a couple of weeks ago. That had some ethical questions in there that were beautiful.
For sure.
I had questioned quite a bit.
And for this film in particular, always a huge fan of the question of ethics and morals in AI, in robotics, and just the setting of it also was interesting because we had already advanced past the point of no return, which is, we're always approaching these questions as we get into the theater of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this film, we're already past it. We have already standards set, and we're in this world that's filled with immorality. And immoral uses of AI and robotics. And the story as it was unfolding was just more and more my cup of tea, because it also had a intimate narrative associated with it. So there was a lot of ethics and morality with it that also had to do with a very, very deep and personal story for the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really keen to get into that as well. So we'll go into some facts on the film quickly, and then we'll dive into some of the topics I've outlined here. So, written and directed by Yeon Sang-ho, the visionary behind Train to Busan in 2016, this Korean film was released on Netflix on the 20th of Jan 2023 on a budget of $16.3 million. Now, the film has no box office results as it was released straight to streaming, and Netflix refuses to share any earnings data like that, which is honestly a little bit rude. And the film features the final performance by lead actress Soo-youn, who suffered a cardiac arrest and heartbreakingly passed away on May 7th, 2022, a few months after principal photography concluded. She was an award-winning Korean actress who worked consistently from the 70s until 2012, and then Jung-E was her first return to the screen at 11 years. She was 55 when she passed, and she had been awarded the Woman in Film Korea Award in 2015 for her service as a co-executive director of the Busan International Film Festival, and a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2022 by the Korean Film Producers Association as well. The film itself garnered mixed reviews. It has a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd and a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb from a handful of reviews, and has a runtime of an hour and 38 minutes. There isn't heaps of information available on the film for me to dial into fun facts on, but I did see one review on Letterboxd that called it Jung_mid, and I thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, hey.
Yeah. Well, I would love to know too, Pep. So we usually talk about who kind of had the most or least knowledge going to this film. Naturally, you've recommended it to us. You had the most knowledge about it. But is this something that you just kind of stumbled across, or something that you had anticipation for?
Partly stumble across, partly information because I cover Korean dramas a lot on another channel of mine called Watching Sundays with my brother. Mm-hmm. We seldom cover, K-dramas and films. Yeah. And so we knew this was coming. But for the most part, it's not something that I had background information on that made me excited particularly for it.
Yeah.
So when it came around, I was keen on checking it out, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is it, this is the one.
Yeah, I think had I also known, I only learned that it was by the Train to Busan director today, and I'd seen Train to Busan before, but then I'd also seen the sequel, and I was like, maybe he doesn't cook as much as I thought he did.
Or you just let him cook.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, maybe we should have had a leash on Zack Snyder. Maybe we shouldn't have just let him do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
George Lucas as well. But yeah, look, that's the thing with visionaries, right? You gotta shoot for the stars. You gotta shoot for them.
They have a very specific flavor, but you gotta make sure that fits in the dish.
That's it. Yeah, we've got somebody in TikTok.
Also, if you see me looking over here, it's because my cat is just off screen and it's eyeballing my mouse like it's gonna.
I thought I heard you yelling at someone for a second. It must have been the cat. But yeah, we had someone here on TikTok saying this wasn't their favorite film and they've given a 3 out of 10. I put it on Letterboxd as a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was really solid. And it has some really interesting themes that it touches on, which made me think of some other films that I'm really excited for on Cinema a la carte too at the end, where we'll kind of recommend some things to kind of pair along with this. But I really liked the ones that came up for me while watching this. But with the film itself, as we said, we're going to be discussing this with the idea that you have seen the film already. You don't really care too much about spoilers, so we don't actually do a play-by-play here, but we don't avoid spoilers in the conversation. You can always come back later if you want to go into the film fresh, but feel free to stick around even if you haven't seen it, because like we said, it's not a complete play-by-play. You may just have some light spoilers on the story. And you can always, like we said, either come back later or hang out, and if our conversation prompts you to go and watch the film, then that's a win as well. So getting into the conversation itself, I think there's one big question that comes up with this, because it's a film about artificial intelligence, and we're currently in a world where artificial intelligence is very prevalent. And I think that brings forth a lot of questions around the ethics of how we do things now, but then also how we're going to do things in, what was it, 2194? So what's that, nearly 150, 170 years or something from now? Yeah? Math? So nearly 200 years from now. And I'm curious on you guys' thoughts on this. When you look at the world that they've created here, do you see this as a possibility or an outcome that we might actually experience?
Realistically, no. I mean, for their specific usage, they're getting to things a little bit backwards. You know, I mean, they towards the end of the movie they start looking for like other applications for AI of household stuff, and I think that's going to come way before. But this universe was interesting because of how they had it designed and how they had. Basically, you know, started out with the plot of Wall-E, where the Earth was in shambles. Yeah. So they went up towards the stars, and then that's when the war broke out. So everything became very utilitarian, and I really liked that. Yeah. So they're all on Halo disc, and like the overall aesthetic of all the technology was really industrial feeling, and.
I do like when they do that in futuristic things that still feel tactile, like you had it in like Interstellar and like Lightyear, the animated film, did a lot of that too. Those switches and buttons. It's one of my favorite things about Star Wars when they get into a ship and then it's like click, 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 and it's different buttons every time. But hey, the ship takes off.
Yeah, that originally started as like just because the technology wasn't there to create such technologically looking things. Like Alien started that, and like their advanced computers were literally like PS2s and Lisa computers with like the old keyboards, and that created something called lo-fi sci-fi. And so it has become a style where like a lot of the future stuff just still looks like things from the olden days, and it still works. I love it too.
It just it's like I found that when you look at things that from the past tried to make things look way too futuristic, you can sometimes reflect back on it and it makes it feel more dated somehow. Again, it's like Back to the Future 2, like the Jaws 4D thing, and you're just like, really? Okay.
My biggest critique of the futuristic stuff that looks so futuristic actually comes from the Marvels. When Kamala Khan was like, if this is classified, why is this on a clear like screen?
Yeah. I do love that. But yeah, Choco, you were saying about the futuristic stuff.
Where the scientist or the boss of the project, he doesn't seem to have any science knowledge or abilities at all. Yeah. But he had like an art thing on his wall, and it was just like a deconstructed computer parts like glued to the wall with a monitor there. But it was kind of sick though. Like it was. Yeah.
I think that does look pretty dope. Like it's like, you know, when people have I saw this trend that popped up off a couple of years ago where they would have like their theater room and they would have all the wiring and all the consoles like on the wall and have like the lighting for it, and then you just see the wires go off in the Xbox here and the Switch there and the PlayStation. I was like, it's kind of dope. But yeah, like that stuff ends up what's the word, like it died out pretty quickly, that trend. Maybe someone's PS4 fell off the wall or something and they're like, oh, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe command strips shouldn't hold up a console.
There's this channel on YouTube called Gamers Nexus, and they have like a mouse pad, or they have like a mouse mat. Yeah. That is literally just a motherboard design with like instructions on where things go, so that you have a mouse mat on how to build a PC. Oh yeah. And it looks artistic. It's like, what do you want from me? Like, I love these lines, I love these shapes, and it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff you can do. Especially like I've always found like computers look just so cool too. So when you do stuff like pulling them apart, putting them up there, like it would be a work of art. Interesting thing to stick out to you as well though, Choco. Like from all of the things in the film, it's like there's so much stuff that punch you in the face, and then it's like, hey, the art piece with the computer. That's how you know he's a nerd.
Yeah. So I do want to clarify something. The whole kind of, I guess if we're not kind of like glossing over spoilers, the whole sex robot thing isn't new. Yeah, it's just something that they wanted to start exploring with Jung-yi, the hero. Like it was like we should, I guess our only use now is to kind of exploit her popularity in that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, what else can we really do here? which I thought was interesting. Actually, I titled the
mommy.exe.
Yeah, I thought like it's the title of the episode works on multiple levels here. Yeah, there was a few other like working titles for. One of them was like, "Be honest, you would have bought it," but then I thought, you know what, maybe that's a little too on the nose. Yeah, but there's lots of really interesting things there, like, and the fact that her daughter is the one who's working on this project, obviously not the sex robot part, but like the actual like command AI, I found really interesting. And one of the things that really stood out to me, especially after finishing the film and learning about the fact that the lead actress had like passed away, was like, you've got your main character who is like terminally ill,
yeah,
knowing that the film's come out probably shortly after the film, you know, in the timeline within the film, the character's passed away, but the actress is gone now too, is really wild. I did not expect her to be 55. However, she looked much younger than that in the film itself. Like,
no reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? And then yeah, I thought maybe it's a different character. Am I like losing my mind? But nope, that this is it. Yeah, like, yeah. But I did love.
And she had been on a hiatus too for 9 years, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw that. Yeah, her last film was in 2012, and this was like her first film back. And the fact that it happened, a couple of months after like principal photography ended as well, it's heartbreaking. You never got to really see the movie because, as you can see within the film, there's a lot of visual effects here. So this was in post for over 12 months. It finished photography in Jan of 2022 and came out in Jan of 2023. Like, there was a lot of work here, which is something that I want to dive into at some point as well, because I think that there's some really interesting use of both practical and visual effects and a really nice blend in a lot of scenes as well, which makes it really cool. But I would love to know from you guys the actual opening action sequence in the film. I love how it kind of takes you on this little journey and then it pulls the layers back and you're kind of like, oh, that's what we're doing here. I wondered, had you guys seen trailers or anything beforehand? Like, did you know what you were getting into, or was it part of a kind of pull the curtain back a little bit for you guys as well? Because for me, I was like, damn, Pep, this is like, yeah, John Wick with robots and Koreans, fuck yeah. And then it stopped and I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
I dropped in cold as well, and I was like, "This is what Rebel Moon should have been." I
like that sentence.
Yeah.
No, I had no trailers. You know, we had seen it on like the coming soon to Netflix, and we're like, Korean stuff is always on our radar for the reasons I gave earlier. But yeah, no, that was a curtain pullback moment for myself as well, and just to kind of like highlight the most exciting or the most hype part about like that technology reveal is how they're doing it too, because you look in their kind of their what do they call it? It's not the simulation room. It's their metaverse room, which is odd. not odd. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But they have like little rods, like little tactile rods that rise up to create the shapes that they're running into. Like if she needs to mantle over some boxes, like the rods come up and create the boxes, and it's like really like a AR MR like danger room.
Yeah. Like
you always like have those questions, like if you're running a simulation in a room and it's like you're in a jungle, like how are these images being like tactily translated to the user, right?
Have you guys seen or have you guys done one of those like VR rooms where you have the thing on and you walk around the room and you shoot down zombies or whatever else?
I have not done one of those yet, but I have played with the little pin art toys where the little rods come and you can make a shape like a hand. That felt very similar to this
same
film.
thing. Yes. Same thing. No, but Kay took me to one when we were in LA, which was really cool, and it was literally like a little arcade, and at the back of the arcade they had a bunch of VR games, and some of them where you walk into a room and then you put on your headset and your gun and you walk around circles, and we have them here as well in Melbourne. But one of them we were literally like on a boat, and we were just, the boat itself was moving and we were trying to shoot down like demons and stuff that were there. So you're kind of like running around on the boat. And one of the ones that I've done here in Australia was really cool because it's, 8 of us in this huge warehouse, and it's like a COD Zombies kind of thing. And you have like elevators and stuff in there as well, where you can walk in, press the button, and the elevator goes up, and you're still on the same level as your friends. But when you look at where they are, it's kind of they're down there, which is like really, really weird to be in that sort of separate universe. And there was also another one that was like a PvP kind of game where you've got walls up that you can't walk through, and when you walk through the walls, it doesn't give you like a tactile response, but you start losing health and your whole screen goes red and you can't see anything. So it's like that's how they kind of trick you into don't walk through the wall. So I could literally just be here pointing the gun directly at someone and not know because there's a wall in the way. So those were pretty wild. But I did like how they had their own sort of way about doing it here. And it's funny that as we were just talking about the intro, it reminded me of, I think the last time I saw do something like this, is it X-Men The Last Stand that opens up with this, they're doing a mission. And then at the end,
in the danger room, yeah.
Oh yeah, we're not actually out there. We're just here. It was training, haha. But it just clicked, man, that connection
for
me.
Fastball special in there. It was great. Sorry.
Greatest film of our generation.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sad now.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay. We're getting Wolverine back probably tomorrow in a trailer. So
that's true.
Yeah, but
hold on, I need to do something with my camera really quickly.
You're good. You're good.
Dude,
it's gone. There was
it got skinny. He's got skinny and black.
What's my time code? 2902.
Let's see. Joseph Barron's in the chat says Rise of Skywalker is the greatest movie of our time.
Just let me block him real quick. 1 second. Okay.
Reminds me of Xenon.
You're zoomed in so much, Pep, on the TikTok live now. It's like right up in your face.
Yeah, hold on.
Give me 1 sec. That could be. Oh yeah, you're on like vertical now.
No, that's me. That's me. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's not using my the main camera. It's using the vertical one.
Oh. That's so
How do I
weird.
change that? One.
Well, guys, this is the fun thing about joining us live as well. You get to experience the technical difficulties as they come up. There's nothing fun about the edited version where none of this exists. This is, you want to see real, you want to connect with the creators, this is where you do it, baby. Also, shout out
normally
to,
you got to pay extra for the Patreon to see this stuff.
Yeah, legit. But shout out to Kay as well, who's not able to join us today, but I'm wearing a shirt in his honor, which is just my favorite thing ever. He actually has a matching one that's got my face on it instead of his.
That's perfect.
So zoomed in.
I'm excited to like sell them as merch or something at some point and be like, okay, we're big enough. Who wants to buy the In Love with the Curves and just see who sells more? It's gonna be mine.
I mean, we did something similar where we had Diana and the Force, Choco and Element 7 shirts.
Yeah.
But sadly, they didn't have our faces on them. The closest thing is I have a shirt that has a big Mace Windu face on it, and he has a shirt with a big Yoda face on it.
Nice.
That's as close as we get.
So it'll be the next step, putting your face on merch.
But I gotta. You seriously? You haven't seen Die Hard yet?
Well, I mean, I have now. So I actually watched. It worked out that we were going to do the episode for Christmas, and they were playing Die Hard in IMAX here in Melbourne, and so I got to watch it for the first time in IMAX, and then since literally a day later I watched Die Hard 2, and 2 days later I watched Die Hard 3, and I'm just waiting to plan to watch number 4, but I loved it. It was so good.
Okay. It's like, seems like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, just like a little bit. But it's wild because when we watched it, I thought that it was one of those scenarios where only the first film was good and all the others like sucked. That's what I just, there's like what 6 or something of them, and I was like, I've only heard that they're crap, so like, well, maybe I'll just watch the first one. And one of our friends was like, no, at least 2 and 3 you should watch, and then apparently 4 is still pretty decent, so I'm gonna try that one soon.
Yeah, 4 mixes up the formula where it feels less of like a like a poor dirty guy who gets beat up a lot to feeling like a superhero who beats up people a lot. You know,
it's like when Fast and Furious had that change at some point too. It's like, oh,
yeah, it's like Fast Five, and then all of a sudden he is a hacker, and you're like, did you finish high school? I don't remember. Like, where did this come from?
You look like you're back online there, Pep.
It could be.
I mean, the quality of the camera looks pretty good to me.
I just need to look something up really quickly, but we can continue with the conversation. I can multitask.
Oh, good.
Choco just zoomed in.
There he is.
It was intentional. We're fine.
Okay, we're good. All right. Well, we were talking about how the opening was kind of similar to that X-Men Last Stand kind of opening, and I thought that was really a cool way to set the stage. I did see on IMDb that somebody was saying it was a plot hole, that that at the end, that little like lion thing that's looking for her in the pipeline can see her as like an energy signature or a heat signature as a human, because she's not human. And I was like, okay, bro, I think that you're like trying to take this too seriously. Like, chill.
Yeah, no, that's I don't think that like, even as a robot, there still would be heat.
Yeah, I think even also within the simulation, she's not actually seeing a lion tiger thing with a gun. Yeah, like that's just for us, the audience, to interpret. Like,
well, yeah. Okay, I actually think that what we were seeing was mixed reality and simulation, because
she was rocking
that
Apple
was
Vision
her
Pro.
last mission. That was her last mission. And so they recreated it, and so I think we were meant to see that in a way to understand that this is how her last mission played out, and then know that they simulated that. So
yeah,
that's what I assumed when I saw her.
I think you're absolutely right.
That's what happened. That's what actually happened.
Yeah, like that thing actually saw her as the heat signature, and then obviously this is all just replaying from her mind, I suppose. But yeah, it is a really cool way that they show.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, that like that seeing her as a heat signature, I would bet money that that's actually part of her memory, because she was up top, locked and loaded, waiting for it to find her to jettison her out of the thing. So she knew that was going to happen. So yeah,
it's very much one of those like lasers shouldn't arc in space, guys. Come on, kind of arguments.
I still maintain that the place I see that used, it's not arcing, the camera's panning, and something moving in a straight line with a panning camera looks like it arcs. I don't know if you've ever tested that before, but that's literally just how it looks. Load up the Battlefront 1, like 2015, and go to Hoth, and when you see the ion cannons firing, strafe while looking at them. They'll just look like they arc. That's just how it works.
Cool. I never thought of it like that. I just thought it looked dope. Like I settle down sometimes. Yeah, like the ships shouldn't be able to bank in space either, but they do. So
that's true. That's true. Very true.
But one of the other things that opening sequence kind of gets us thinking about is the actual like choreography and the fight choreography in the film in particular, which I think. Good. Like it's something that like non-Western action films just do so much better than like films that come out of the States, where they're so quick to like cut and have these like choppy, shaky cam kind of things to hide where the action isn't as good as it should be. And you watch a film like this when even you're probably fighting people in mocap suits there, but just hold the camera steady and give me the John Wick of it all, where I can just watch and enjoy what these brilliant performers have put to the screen for me. I love that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I think it's been a constant thing with Western shooting techniques, where a lot of times you're dealing with a cast or a group of people that just are not in sync with martial arts and the way movie fighting works. You've got main characters and main actors that have only trained to look the part.
Finn Jones and Iron Fist.
Yeah, but like for the most part, their understanding of movie fighting, like the angles to make it look like a real punch and stuff like that is only basic at best. And whereas when you have like action directors and stunt teams in like Asian films, they understand because their entire like thing is theatrical stuff. Like people watch videos of like Shaolin demos and they're like, that doesn't work in real life. That's a demo. Like they're just that's there for theatrics. They're doing stunts and they're putting their throat on a spear and like and so like that's all the stuff that they do is very theatrical, very movie fight oriented. And I love the choreography in this film because it's so kind of the way that they're able to mix that with CG was truly miraculous, honestly. Because sometimes it doesn't look like CG.
It didn't for most of the film, at least for me, it didn't feel like that opening scene that we're talking about. She's punching robots and stuff, and like very rarely does it swap to something that you can tell is 100% CG, but when she's hitting these things, it does feel tactile and real, and that's cool. And even when it does switch, it's because it's about to do something cool. You know what I mean? When she lit it on fire and stuff. Like, all right,
there was awesome. A couple of moments where also like, because she's wearing this exoskeleton, or the exosuit, and they never talk about it at all. They're just like, this is the way it is, and it kind of makes sense to me as well because I like that when you could be like, how can she punch the robot and it goes so far away? Why doesn't her hand hurt? Like you could have people like that, but it's like, okay, to just look, pay attention. There's a whole ass like suit thing happening here that's launching her that way, which I thought was really cool. And using that to get those extra jumps and stuff towards the end, I thought were really, really cool as well. So you have this weird blend between the actual choreography itself has more, like, I guess, weight to it because of that. Like the fact that it's not like when Obi-Wan tried to sweep General Grievous's feet and his shins are just like, which is still one of my favorite moments in Star Wars ever. Why would you try and sweep the leg of General Grievous, Obi-Wan? Like, why would you do that? And
just watch Karate Kid.
Oh man, so uncivilized. But so watching her be able to do exactly that and not have that issue was really cool. And there's a few fight sequences throughout the film that kind of, what's the word, particularly once the AI, what do you call them, like the actual AI robots that they're testing come to fight her, and she's fighting all three of them in the room at the same time. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And obviously the fight scene at the end.
You know what stuck out to me during that fight too is that like there's a lot of heavy hits that like send things flying that they don't audibly emphasize. Like, you know how like if Superman were to fight someone and goes flying through the building, the initial punch just sounds like it like creates this. I know it makes sense that it would create like almost a sonic boom, but like this like bass, like heavy, like boom, like it doesn't really come off to me that well. But when she kicks one of these robots and it's just a regular kick and they just fly, it's just like, I mean, I guess that's what it sounds like. It doesn't really create anything. It's just a really heavy kick, and it's not like a sonic boom Mach 5 speeded kick. It's just a really powerful one. You know what I mean?
I kind of like that in live action though, because like I mean I like a lot of anime. You watch Jujutsu Kaisen or something, and every time anything gets punched, it feels like it should explode. You know what I mean? Like the way they animate it, the way the sound. That's also true. No, but like there's a middle ground there between everything looking like it should send you into orbit, and then this. So but the thing I appreciated though is when when things hit, it did what I love of movies, of doing the small moments really good.
Yep.
And so you actually care what's happening. And the movie overall is about this relationship of this woman and the memories of her mother, who she very much loved and who was taken from her too soon. And that core of the movie was gold.
Yeah.
The kind of caps on the end, like there's bits of it that are just like, oh, well, that's weird. Let's just not pay attention to that.
Yeah. There were, I think, a really good like setup and payoff for a couple of things. Obviously, the little like the lucky cheek rub, which I was like, oh, that's like a cute little thing that like a parent would do with a kid. Yeah, sure. I didn't expect it to come back and make me want to cry at the end.
Right?
It's like, oh, I've wiped me from her memory. It's like, but you didn't entirely, did you? Like, no. And it's funny, I was telling you before, Pep, off stream, I was like, I didn't actually cry watching the film. It's like, now thinking back to it, I actually feel emotional about it.
Well, the thing is that like it's such a heavy line when she says, I've erased the memory of her daughter, but the line that precedes it, Captain Yoon Jung-hee is free now, and what that kind of represented to me was like the fact that she didn't complete her mission because she was thinking of her daughter. She was looking at the hanging toy, hesitated because of her daughter, and she couldn't escape the simulation because she was thinking of her daughter. And she thought that erasing the memory of her daughter would make her pass those simulations. But in the end, it was their love for each other that got them to escape. And having that memory ultimately didn't free her. It was having that memory and kind of like that last moment together with each other created that freedom. And it was never about escaping the simulation, or kind of changing the failure of the mission. It's just their love for each other.
It's like maybe the real mommy was the friends we've made along the way.
Well, I mean, when she talks to the chairman, and like the question, this wasn't the conversation with the chairman, but she wonders, did my mom regret having a daughter? Did she regret having me because of all this stuff? And she finds her answer and is ultimately able to, I don't know, kind of set her mom from where she left off to continue, even though what she was born with came back. I mean, those parts of the film really work for me.
No, I totally
also
get it.
In the intro, when she does get distracted by the little thing, I think they did that scene perfectly, to where, like, to me, that didn't feel like a wink of like, remember this thing, this is gonna come back later, just so you know what I mean? Like, I hate when movies like they do that, they hit it too hard, and I think this did it.
I think you're right, because like I think a Chekhov's gun can work really, really well, and at the same time, sometimes when you point too much to it, it just becomes really predictable. I didn't expect that was going to be something that loops back in by the end of the film. Like that was, it's like, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but I guess surprising to me, and how they connected those things, like where she comes back to, oh yeah, my daughter gave me this little thing, and then you see her look at it and it's like, oh, that's why. Because I remember seeing it at the start, and I think that my thought, and I'm curious on if you guys had like your own interpretations of this too, but at the start I thought that her looking at it was more like, oh, there's been destruction here and people have died, and there was probably a kid in this car who died, and just kind of like thinking aside to maybe something like that, like just the tragedy of what may have occurred here before I showed up is more what I thought distracted her. What about you guys?
No, I'm in agreement. I think like metaphysically, like as the audience, you couldn't put that connection of it reminds her of her daughter, but at the same time, like if you were in like a combat zone and you were a mercenary and a war hero for this civil war, I think anything that resembles civilization would kind of take you out of it for that split second. And for the most part, whether it reminded her of her daughter, or if it reminded her that a child died here, or just made her think, oh my God, that's like a kid's toy. Everything is super relevant when it comes to taking her out of the war mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, another thing I want to talk about too is with the director. You've got there was there was the moment where he's walking in to see the actual like CEO, and the way that he just freezes, and then she keeps walking in. It's like that shock of like, oh, he's one of these like AIs as well, these androids as well, and like. I had to, and then to find out what he actually is when the CEO explains it there too, I was like, this is cheeky. This is very cheeky.
Yeah.
And it's funny that like the more that we like kind of talk about little aspects of the film, the more I find myself connecting other films that do these similar things too. Like not exactly the same, but I don't know what it was about this section in particular that kind of gave me. Do you remember Michael Bay's The Island?
Yes.
It's like you had a clone of yourself.
Is that with Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, and Scarlett Johansson. I remember when Ewan McGregor meets his own version, and they're just completely different people, but the same person. And it's like, huh, wild.
Yeah. You know what it made me think of?
Yeah, tell me.
My God, it's a comic book movie with Vin Diesel, Bloodspot.
Oh yeah.
Are you talking about Bloodsport? I'm just kidding.
No, it's I guess not an indie comic, but what are they? Valiant? Yeah, Valiant. And in it, they basically mess with people's memories so that they can make this super soldier go kill these people. So they'll create a fake memory or whatever. And the thing that caught me about his character in particular is he was never serious. He was always joking. He was always nervous. He had so many qualities that were so human that I never expected him to be one of them. But it just reminded me of that movie where they implant a memory of like his girlfriend getting killed by like this villain who was like a thug, and he's like who like dances and stuff, like this super cliched bad guy who's like kind of goofy and silly. And it just brought that into my mind as well.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I think that films like this also sometimes for people can feel like maybe they don't stand out in the memory a lot, because it does feel like an amalgamation of a lot of other things that I've seen before. You know, like there are aspects of it that feel kind of unique, and then also I look at it and I'm like, it feels unique in how you combined these things. It's like the sum of its parts feels a lot more unique than the actual like story itself. Like it feels, what's the word, familiar. So I find that really interesting, and I think the world building in particular here I thought was really cool, in how it just presents a universe as is. Oh, we lost Pep again. But we lost. He's back. We just get to experience the world as it is in that moment. And
full disclosure, that's my way of vaping without putting your channel on the hook.
Fair call, man. Fair call. Yeah, but it's just really cool when you get introduced to a world and they don't do heaps of like exposition, like dumps on it. I did actually like that. There's a part where the film actually tries to exposition dump a little bit on you, and even the people are like, bro, why are you showing us this? We've seen it. Can you just fucking move on? And I was like, I like you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, that's what a lot of Korean films are good at, or just in general Asian films, is like they don't really kind of hold your hand in that way, you know. And a lot of the exposition is visual too. Yeah. It's not very, and when this happened, this is when she knew she effed up. You know what I mean?
So I know what
that
you're
was
thinking.
one of my favorite parts about
How
this,
did I
about
get here?
Jung-hee. Yeah.
We were talking about the choreography a little bit earlier as well, and how particularly like Asian films will be significantly better in like the cinematography and the action of those sort of sections of their films. And I remember in the past learning that, like, I'd seen some videos about Jackie Chan talking about how to edit action, and I was like, what do you mean, bro? Like, you just do the stunts. And I'm like learning that he'd actually directed his films and, like, you know, been there obviously in the editing bay and all of this too. That then I started recognizing these, not so much tropes, but like little tricks that editors can use to make things have a bit more like punch sometimes, that come from, you know, like old kung fu films and any other kind of like martial arts films, which I thought was really cool. But particularly I've noticed a trend more recently, things like John Wick and Extraction that have much better action sequences than what you'd expect from films from this day and age, particularly Western films, as we were saying, come from directors that have moved on from stunt choreography or stunt performers. Like, you've got Chad Stahelski from John Wick, and then you have I can't remember his name from Extraction, Sam Hargraves I think his name was, who was one of the stunt performers in like I believe he was a stunt performer for Captain America in the MCU films, or for other aspects as well. But he went on to direct for Extraction and Extraction 2. And then actually watching the behind the scenes of this stuntman strapping himself to the front of a car and going, all right, I'm going to direct this car chase and I'm going to shoot it. Like, let's go. You go, they know what it takes to make something look good on screen. And obviously the same thing comes through here with the stunt performers, which were incredible.
Well, I mean, I'm not a stunt person myself, but I'm growing up in the world of skateboarding and snowboarding and action sports. And parkour, yeah. I have a lot of photos of me doing flips over fire pits and people getting scared.
We're going for like a ring of fire kind of thing, or?
Yeah.
Badass, bro. Badass.
Also, I was sober at the time, which is also wild. I'm surprised. Anyways, you have to be able to do them in order to shoot them right. Like, especially when you like film someone skating, you have to know what to emphasize, where certain things are going to occur. You have to get the motion with it because you're moving too. Oftentimes you're skateboarding with them and you need just as much skill to be able to get the shot, or if you're snowboarding or whatever. And the same thing with stunt choreography. Also, these people, in order to get the stunt jobs, are filming this stuff with their friends, and they need to make it look as good, as punchy, with as much oomph as you can possibly get. And so, yeah, these people like live and breathe that stuff. It's almost shocking that it took this long to really make that happen on a regular basis.
Yeah, and just the fact that they're called action directors should know that if there is action on screen, they should be directing it. And a lot of what we've seen from like even fans who are doing like live action renditions of anime, a lot of it comes from fans who are like stunt coordinators and stunt people and fighters who are familiar with on-screen fighting, and they often emphasize and compose their shots for the best looking fight.
Yeah.
And you know, when I watch those like fan made things with those people, it's like, oh man, that was amazing. But at the end of the day, we're only seeing the action, right? We're only seeing that one part. And so I think there does need to be a change in the industry where the action director does in fact direct the action. And sometimes you'll get the you know, the albatross of like the action director can in fact also direct all other parts of the cinematography and photography. And so, you know, I just think understanding the subject you're shooting helps tremendously in creating the best possible shot for that subject matter.
Yeah, it seems very much like a no-brainer. You know, like you would think that this is just what they do everywhere. But it is, again, particularly in Western media, like a fairly new concept to get the people who know it best filming. I think It was the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes films where there was one sequence where they're running through the forest and all of these trees are being blown up in slow motion. And if I recall correctly, they consulted the slow-mo guys from YouTube to like shoot aspects of that with their slow-mo cameras to use as plates within the film as well, which is like so cool. First, because their videos are dope. Like, it is such a brilliant, unique concept. Just like, what's this thing you do every day? Let's watch it in slow motion at 15,000 frames a second. Yeah, I'm in. I'm like, that's what I want. It's cool that you can put stuff like that in a film.
Well, I mean, just thinking about it the way you guys put it, also reminds me of something that Master Allen said. If check out Level Up Sabers, excellent stuff, including the new Shan lightsaber, which is absolutely look at that thing.
Oh my god, that is so beautiful.
Look at the inner working. How yeah, it's gorgeous. Anyhow, he brought up, I did a whole thing that was on specifically just fights in Star Wars and stuff like that, and just the choreography. And the way he described how all fight scenes need to tell a story in and of itself. You need to be able to tell a story in the fight scene separate from what's going on. It's aided by what's going on, but we need to understand the characters, what they're fighting for, who's a good guy, who's the bad guy, and all this stuff. And I don't think unless you come from that world, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, I
think you tell a story and then they fight and then he wins and then you go and back to the story.
Well, I think I know that like for some people it copped like a lot of like flack, I guess, this particular fight scene, but it was one that I've always looked at and always loved. But it's the throne room sequence in The Last Jedi with Rey and Kylo. I think that tells actually one of the most beautiful and interesting stories. And absolutely. Keegan, if you're listening to this, I didn't forget today to tie something back to The Last Jedi. But yeah, like I think that sequence is so cool too, in how you've got two characters that both are misunderstanding what is happening here, like, and it's that story within it that for me exceeds, like, even if there are aspects of it that isn't the best, like, choreography, I suppose, I still look at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what, there are some Praetorian guards that run around in a circle out of the screen and come back in, sure, but like, I don't care. I just don't care.
I think the choreography was actually pretty well done for the most part.
Yeah.
And it was miraculous that they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was miraculous that they could do it in one shot with two actors that weren't, stunt people.
Yeah.
In particular, Kylo's fight with the other people. Like, I don't understand. I mean, a lot of the criticisms of that fight stem from frame picking, and that's not how you're supposed to watch action to begin with. So I mean, if all things being the same, you watch it and it happens, like, it's a pretty good fight between Kylo and like five guys, and Rey with like two people one at a time.
If you just like clipped Rey with five guys, Kylo with five guys and Rey with two people one at a time, and just like put that somewhere else out of context, that would sound pretty dirty there, Pep.
I know.
That would get a lot of viewership, though.
All right, hold on. Let me clip it real quick.
Star Wars fans are
Sorry,
thirsty.
done.
I have to emphasize that anyway, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, she never loses," and then like we have to like point out the Snoke thing, like ragdolling her, and then the throne room fight. It's like, oh my gosh, they took out an entire room of Praetorian guys. Like, she fought two people one at a time, and Kylo is like. It's like steamrolling and like a whole group of them by himself, clearly on purpose. But as it relates to this film, and just filming action scenes in general, I think they're starting to get the hint. I think the biggest oof for me has always been how they shot Yuen Ping's action scenes in Matrix. I'm not a huge fan. Like, he has some of the best like choreography, from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to House of Flying Daggers, and what he did in Matrix was incredible. But how they shot those scenes, like, I don't know, Jesus Christed Keanu Reeves, and like it didn't make him look good.
Yeah.
Stop doing Jesus allegories in movies. I just
Yeah, Zack Snyder.
just stop.
Sorry.
Just stop.
Yeah, it
Superman is Jesus, also Batman, also Lex Luthor.
yeah, everyone
We live
is
in a
Jesus.
society.
Everyone is
The
Jesus.
end.
Yeah. I was wearing a pair of pants yesterday that they're by a brand called Worship, and I had somebody come up to me and go, "Hey, what does that banner on the back of your pants say?" And I was like, "What is it? Like, what?" Like, there's a sticker on the back. I was like, "Oh man, there's a sticker on the back of my pants. Crazy." So I go and look, and it's a little brand tag on the back, right? And my guy says Worship, and he goes, "Are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Oh, this is like a whole premeditated like thing. Like you read it and you wanted me to say what it was so we could like talk." I was like, "No, I am not." And then I walked away.
This is a compound
So
noun.
this is
It
a Denny's?
stands for the worst ship.
The worst ship. It's what's in it? Peli and the Jawa.
It's very fuzzy. Fuzzy.
I can't believe that that's something that just exists within that universe. But
I don't like how freely it came into my mind.
yeah. It was just there. It was bubbling beneath the surface. I see you, Choco. I see you. But I think to a point of like having the right people take on the right jobs. You have things like, have you guys both seen Godzilla -1 now?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Well, one of the excited for you to see it, Choco. But one of the things
I'm
that
excited
stands
to
out in
see
that
it.
film is the director is the visual effects supervisor as well. And obviously had the same sort of thing with the directors working on the visual effects in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and all of these things are just like, you go, oh, why does it work so well? This is great. I think there was one also with like, was it John Carpenter in his old like Nightmare on Elm Street films where he would like direct and then also do the score for the film as well or something like that. I can't remember exactly who it was, but there was films from back in the days where, oh, hold on 1 second. Boom, boom, boom. The TikTok live says, we've detected inactivity, but there's activity, guys. Come on, chill. Hi. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, like having people come in and work on aspects of the film themselves, I think works a lot. And seeing that particularly in Godzilla -1 this year and in Everything Everywhere All at Once last year as well, or no, the year before, this stuff is really cool. It's really, really cool.
And it's a weird like circular thing that happens in Hollywood where like this thing works, so that they're like, we'll only do this thing until it no longer works because the people try like a director does a thing and then they become famous for that, and so that's all they can do now. And so now you lose the connection between like the artistry of, no, I'm like the action guy, and I need to just do that part. I can visualize what I'm trying to say, but
I think I get what you mean too, because it happens a lot, not just with like individuals like creatives, but also I find it happens with like actors and like genres a lot. Like we had the whole, do you remember when Hunger Games came out and like they popped off the first one, particularly the second one, which is still like, I love Catching Fire so much. But then from there you had just everyone wanted the YA, they wanted their YA film, and then the MCU, and everyone all of a sudden wanted a cinematic universe. And Ryan Reynolds did a couple of like really funny films and did Deadpool, and they were like, we want Deadpool in everything. And I can't stand Ryan Reynolds in films anymore. Like I am as tired of him as I am of the MCU. I'm excited for Deadpool 3 because I'm like, I like you as that character, but I don't need you as that character in every film. You have The Rock doing his thing, like, and the Kevin Harts were just like, oh, it worked, let's do it again and again and again and again and again. It's like, oh, James Corden did carpool karaoke. Everyone should do carpool karaoke, bro. Just let it exist.
There's this thing about that. There's this huge kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna call it like cart before the horse or like an Ouroboros, where like the Eastern movie industry loves to so much try to be the Western industry when they make movies, and they inject their juices into it and create something wholly. They create something wholly Eastern, and then by way of the West trying to take some of that juice into the West, you start getting films that start to feel like John Wick, start to feel like more of the Eastern stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like Ouroboros eating itself, like the East start to want to become Western again, and they do the sci-fi. And then they inject their juice into that, and the West is going to start to copy a lot of the, there's so much like throughout in memoriam for films. There's always like the Asian dude that's like my inspiration is like Scorsese, right? And then like you have like another filmmaker in the West.
Scorsese
Like,
is Asian?
No, I'm saying the Asian dude is saying my inspiration is Scorsese, yeah. And then you have a new filmmaker that's like my inspiration is Kurosawa, and then you have another filmmaker is inspiration was George Lucas, and then it's like the two industries continually being inspired by each other is the way they innovate.
Yeah, and
so like George Lucas innovated on, or like the Eastern cinema innovated on like the Rashomon type of like what is that called? Memento the Memento style like Rashomon filmmaking, like storytelling, and then like Lucas took some of that and innovated on visuals and the technology, and then like so the East will take that, innovate on like the action like filming action with the technologies, and then it just goes back and forth from there. And I think Jung-Yi is a good example of like Western sci-fi with Eastern philosophy and ethics.
Yeah.
That's also why I chose this movie in general.
Yeah, I get that.
Not to bring it back to the movie.
I think most of the stuff that we touch on here is kind of like a roundabout way dials back into what this film is kind of doing for obviously the industry and how it's telling its story too. And like one of the things that I also really liked about this film is naturally, like we were saying, we had 12 months of post-production here, so like there's a lot of visual effects. But they also tie in, as you were saying earlier, Choco, that really like tactile feel with its technology, but with a lot of the other aspects that exist. They've got kind of a District 9-esque thing happening with particularly their androids and the robots and the police and that, where you've got this very simple look on these robots, which makes it easier to, I mean, you got this like kind of brushed metal. They're not as shiny, so they don't stand out as much. It just looks a little dirtier, which makes it feel a little more real. And I do like how they managed to blend a lot of those like practical elements as well. Like I didn't anticipate the director just walking past and grabbing one of those heads off the table. I thought they were all like VFX heads, and he was just like, oh, that's cool. But when he just grabbed it and walked off with it, I was like, oh yeah, like you guys have done a really good job of blending these two things, because your practical effects look like your visual effects. They look like they could be VFX, and your VFX look like they could be someone in a suit. Like not all aspects obviously, but like for the most part it's pretty consistent. What did you guys think?
Well, non sequitur, I had a question about Choco's background. That poster makes me think of like Metropolis, or like
the one on the right.
Old, like I keep on. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Like, where is that from?
That's Macquarie, yeah.
That's
the original C-3PO and R2.
No, but it was also inspired by something else. There's another movie
City right now.
That could be it, but it's like an 80s, it's like a 70s or 80s movie that has that
Metropolis.
Almost it looks like that. Or Metropolis?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
1927, futuristic city sharply divided by the working class and the city planners. But yeah, I literally just looked it up, and the poster has that C-3PO right there. It's crazy.
I mean,
they never make original films anymore. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm actually, for Star Wars reasons, going through a book that's like gives you all the origins, and at this point we're going through the 6 different versions of the script that was written and submitted.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious because like the first one is just Kurosawa's film. It's just the same film where you just cross out a couple names.
Hidden Fortress, yeah.
And then Hidden Fortress. And then the next one is like, okay, it's Hidden Fortress with a cup of this, and then we add like a pinch of Flash Gordon, and then we add and he was doing that intentionally, and talking openly about like, I can't make it like this, otherwise we'll just get sued. And it's interesting because he fully acknowledges that, this isn't wholly original or anything like that. The Force and stuff was an afterthought. That was not even part of his plans at all. I think it's interesting that nowadays it's almost taboo to admit to inspiration from other sources.
Yeah.
When in reality, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's actually good. That's how it's supposed to be. There are not really any new stories. And the only stories you can tell have been influenced by stories you've consumed in the past. So yeah, it's fascinating.
No, I think that like it's also very relevant too, because like I was saying before, like this film feels like that. Like there are aspects of it that feel like, oh, like this is a cool little idea, but it's like the sum of its parts. It's like most of what you see here isn't something that you may have not seen before. It just kind of puts them all together in a new little package and redelivers it to you. And I think that for some people, they might look at that and go jung mid or whatever. But otherwise, I look at it, I'm like, I thought it told a really intimate story about characters that didn't really have. There's that line from Jarvis in WandaVision came through for me, that that what is grief if not love persevering, like in those last moments that she gets with her mum. I was just like, I really feel this. I feel how much you love her, to the point where you would remove yourself from her memory to give her the freedom that she needs, like, and let her actually live her life. And I think that she was able to get the question answered for her around, did my mum resent me because she had to do everything for me? I don't think that she did resent her. I think that she learnt the answer when you see what's lighting up. She's doing all of this for her, but not like in spite of her, which I think was really well portrayed in the film. What I am curious on is from your opinions on the final fight sequence. We have our our director realizing like what he is, and there's a bit of a change in his character up to that point. How did you guys feel about that, and what's your kind of interpretation of what actually happened in that moment?
I have no clue what happened in that moment.
I think
it looked cool.
Well, I mean, for the most part, I don't think he turned into something he never was. I think he was fighting desperately. He wasn't really fighting with much elegance or discipline as much as Jung-yi was fighting with. And sometimes desperation and kind of that chaotic and crazy person will get the jump on you, and sometimes it's not like your typical octagon fight.
Yeah,
someone's just gonna rush at you.
So I mean, it was a complete and utter psychological break by finding out that everything he's ever done has been useless. So I guess it's a fair reason, Yeah. Because he's had this project that's been his life, and all he wants to do is look good for the chairman, and he worships the chairman, wants to kiss the ground he walks on. And then finding this out is now knowing that you'll never accomplish any of that, and you weren't designed to. And if you failed and you're a machine designed to do something and there may have even been a connection of how he feels about machines in general, because he was pretty gnarly during all the testing periods. So
Shooter to like
yeah. But by the way, those cop droids were no joke. Like when they start flinging themselves out of the, ship and like,
yeah, just like slingshot out and just like glide over to the train. I was like, okay, that's cool.
I was like, how are they gonna get to them on that? They're on the wrong track, so they're never mind.
Yeah, I liked a lot of that as well. Where you had the alarm goes off and you're like, oh, how far are the police? And it's like, oh, like they'll be here in like 5 minutes. And I expected like police, and then you just have these robots roll out, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, I want to see what you can do here. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff.
It was
like
okay to work on this project on her own mother. I just feel like that's a conflict of interest.
Oh yeah, like
just baked in there, like right at the very beginning. But it was only allowed because of nepotism from the chairman. I don't know. It was weird.
I don't know. I think it was brought upon by herself.
I could see that.
I just mean, if you're a doctor, they don't really allow you to operate on your own family members. If you're a lawyer, you often don't try them because conflict of interest, you can't separate, which is like
what happened
at the same time though, like being survived by family, your family is the only one that has power of attorney over what's done to you.
Not if you're a type C.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we can go into that discussion now.
Here's a segue.
I mean, essentially, that's what happened with Jung-yi. Was she's type C and has no human rights, and so I think being able to like control the research on her own mother's brain was the best she could do in trying to keep some bounds on it. Yeah. But of course she realizes at the end that like for lack of a combat droid, they're just like, well, I guess we could just sell her data and make some bots that will do other things,
that scene where she walked in on was
wow. But I guess to just kind of like, just listen, our morals are not in question here.
It's like, me as a consumer, my ethics are not in question. If you put it available for me to purchase it and I purchase it, I'm not a bad person. Okay, you made it. I just enjoyed it.
Listen, she's type C, okay?
She charges with type C. Sorry.
I mean, just to kind of like,
and you don't get hepatitis type C, so that's good.
Just to kind of shift gears into that discussion and not to kind of do your own job for you, Neff. It's just like, so type A is your brain replication into prosthetic that is treated with equal human rights. That is basically just putting you in another body and you retain your you get to live forever, autonomy. Type B is the cheaper version, obviously, but you are kind of like second class. And type C is like us, we're data farms. All of our data is for everyone to buy and sell and use at their own will, and we can't control it at all.
It is horrifying to think about, and also the fact that it comes based on money, and there's the show Altered Carbon that kind of dives into this a little bit, when you've got like, what do they call them, like stacks or stems or something that they like plug in and you can jump into somebody else's shell. And I remember one of my favorite things, have you guys seen the show?
The first season,
long time ago.
Not the one with Anthony Mackie.
I can't remember which season it was, but in one of them there's a Latin American family and they like spin up the grandma all the time, and the main girl is a cop. I think it's in the second season, but she's a cop, and just as criminals get their stacks taken out and uploaded and there's like an extra like body, she'll take her grandma out on like Dia de los Muertos and like bring her home. And so there's this guy who is like, looks like a full-on bike, he's huge, he's covered in tattoos, and he's walking around like a Mexican grandma and going around being like, come, aquí te doy más tamales, ven, ven, ven. And it's just like, it's the most absurd little thing, but it's crazy that all of it is tied into people's earnings and probably their status and all of that as well. You have this CEO going, I could potentially live forever, but look, that is not me. You know that if that were our world, it would be the Elon Musks and the Bill Gates and all of those people that would have that, and we probably wouldn't. You know, we'd all be the Type Cs, which, as you were saying, Pep, we kind of already are, with how much our data is farmed.
Yeah, it is really like a sort of like that kind of question that you ask yourself on where technology is going and how it's going to. Like I said about this movie, we're past the point of no return, right? We're in that society. They've already done all of that. They have all these types for different replications, and like they're already using AI, and there's no discussion or discourse about whether they should or not. They're already doing it. And you know, it brings me to like the thinking about how society is going to be relegated under an AI robotics era where the technology now serves us but doesn't really serve us. Like if immortality is achieved through the brain replication, like we're all just Type Cs. We like it's only going to serve the people at the top.
I mean, Cyberpunk Project Mikoshi. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in general it's just one of those questions about you know the where AI is going and how that technology is only really going to serve the people, like you know, flying up to Mars and so, and nobody like we're not like flying coach class on a rocket to Mars and just visiting it for like a vacation, you know. That's it.
Yeah. It also gave me vibes of the movie The Final Cut with Robin Williams. I don't know.
I haven't seen it. Let me have a look. Yeah. What did you say it was called? The Final Cut?
Yeah. So The Final Cut, and like, it's not about immortality, but like basically the premise is when you're born, you could be implanted with a technology that would record your entire life through your eyes, and then like when you die, they would edit it and make a funeral video for you that like shows the best parts of your life and all this stuff.
Sick.
And there's a lot of moral implications on whether or not that's okay, whether or not the child has agreed to having their entire life filmed, you know, who can have it, and basically his job is he's one of the guys that edits these videos.
Yeah.
And so I guess I won't spoil it since no one else has heard of it. But
yeah, I want to watch this. It seems really interesting. I just found it here too, so I just added it to my watch list.
Yeah, it just has similar vibes.
Yeah.
Yep. Just gets longer and longer.
It also reminds me of an episode of Black Mirror, An Entire History of You. It's one of my like top 3 favorite episodes of Black Mirror, which is the same sort of thing.
It all goes back to Black Mirror, man.
Everything is a Black Mirror, bro.
You remember the episode hanging the jet? I keep on saying
hanging the DJ.
The Jedi.
That's my favorite episode.
Hanging the DJ. Yeah, it's my favorite too.
Man.
I definitely I wanna show it to Choco at some point, but it's like we were talking about the visualization of things, just in general, and it brought us to that episode of the visualization of dating on an app. Yeah, that had really nothing to do with the current conversation. It was just Black Mirror came into it. So
sometimes you just need a little segue. Like Black Mirror has some genius within it and some not so genius. But Striking Vipers, also a great episode in one of the newer seasons.
I haven't gotten to watch the newer seasons.
That one's
I have to though.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. It's like 2 best friends start playing like essentially like Mortal Kombat or Tekken online together. But like when you play, you go into the game, and they start hooking up.
Oh, I did see that one.
It's with Anthony Mackie and I can't remember his name, but the guy who played Black Manta in Aquaman.
Yeah, and they I don't want to spoil it.
What is going on? What does this mean? I'm like, yeah.
Wait, did you see it? Choco, you saw it, right?
No, I don't. I don't really watch Black Mirror. I've only seen like 5 episodes of like season 1.
Did you see
Wait,
the one
I'm gonna
with the
send
pig?
you.
See the
I'm
first
gonna,
episode?
I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you a WhatsApp, and we'll see what you if it like, because I don't want to spoil this.
Do I currently have WhatsApp installed on my phone?
I wouldn't be surprised
No,
if
I
you
was
didn't.
sending it to. I was sending it to Nav because he
okay.
saw it.
My God, what is it? Yeah, literally, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember if it was because of their avatars, if they actually did, have those things.
It's a big question within the episode. They're like towards the end of it, it's like literally like in the alleyway in the dark, and it's raining, and it's like, bro, what does it mean?
Yeah. I guess we have 2 episodes to watch with Choco.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, I'm so down to check those out as well again, because I love those 2 episodes quite a bit.
I feel like Black Mirror is what Twilight Zone should have been for like the contemporary audience.
They're limited by the technology of their time, Tony.
Wasn't there a Twilight Zone reboot that came out thanks to like Jordan Peele?
There was. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
That's probably what happened to it.
Sorry.
Yeah. But
if only we had watched it, it would have survived.
Yeah. But one of the like when we were talking about the film itself, obviously we were saying it's got the same director as like Train to Busan as well. Have you guys both seen that?
Yeah.
You, Choco?
No.
Choco, no. Man, we have to have like a
to.
binge movie night. This is absurd.
This is unfair. This is outrageous.
Sand gets everywhere in my train. But Train to Busan is a zombie film, and it just like I heard it was good. I put it on one day and I was like, sorry, what? This is sick.
It is good, and I understand that Choco doesn't immediately like resonate with zombie films.
Yeah, it's not my go-to. They have to do it really well for me to enjoy it.
They did it really well. You should watch it. I'm sorry to cut you off.
What constitutes really well for you? Like a Shaun of the Dead or?
So Shaun of the Dead is amazing because of its spin, like its take on the genre. 28 Days Later is my favorite zombie film. Sometimes they're too gratuitous with it. I'm not a gore guy. Is more what I would say, because and sometimes they're like, it's not even a zombie movie. It's a vehicle for gore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I hate.
Yep.
It doesn't. Yeah.
I think like just with everything that like Snowpiercer and stuff. I think they do a good job of just telling a story with the zombies being like an obstacle and a foe,
that's what Last of Us did super well.
Yeah, we don't get to see a lot of stories like that where it's like typically the zombies are the thing. Like Night of the Living Dead is because it's Night of the Living Dead, but like when we get intimate stories of social dynamics that's surrounded by like the dangers of zombies, it's usually done really well. 28 Days Later and the like are typically those types of stories where it's the relationships between people and how they handle being in the world filled with zombies, but like the zombies aren't the entree, so to speak.
And I think tying it into like Jung-Yi a little bit, it's what we were saying earlier, this is a bit of like what this film does pretty well, where you do have this kind of big universe and all of these things happening, and you could be diving a lot into the corporate element of it and trying to understand what's going on there. You could have like the iRobot side of things where it's, the investigative trying to figure out what's going on here. Where are these guys being dodgy? But it does very much focus on, even though they don't get a lot of time together, the relationship between a daughter and a mother, which is the heart of the story. And it does,
which is what I additionally enjoyed about the movie is that their relationship, even though like you said they don't have a lot of screen time together, they do have a lot of screen time together in the psyche. of Jung-hee,
Yeah.
the brain data that she's replicating, and how Soo-youn is like parsing all of this data and it affecting her life and how she's moving forward.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times she has a relationship with her mother, but it is binary and, you know, just data.
Yeah.
Just like us, we're data. And so it's like,
I'm lore.
I'm canon. No, but I think that it also, like, it helped a lot, the connection that they had in particularly the sequences where she's watching her mum be like torn apart. We're like, all right, keep her intact. And then it's like, all right, cut her arm off. I want to see what happens. Those scenes were wild. And I actually love how, to your point before, Choco, like, again, I'm not a gore person either. I have on multiple occasions had to leave a cinema to just go and sit outside for a second and just be like, nah, and then be like, all right, let's go, and like go back into the cinema. So I was really appreciative of the fact that this film wasn't gory, naturally, because we're dealing with androids, but there is still an element of like what would constitute like robot gore when they're disassembling Jung-hee there, particularly in that part where they're chopping up the hand. You can see, what is it, like almost like coolant or fluid just going everywhere. It's gross, but in a not queasy way.
I think that stuff with like robotics and androids, that stuff is kind of necessary to kind of give us that empathy. Even though like I automatically empathize with every single robot I see. As soon as they bring out the don't destroy me, I'm just like, bro, I'm with you. You know, well, I'll save you.
Again, in an episode of Black Mirror, they do that where there's a wife who orders like a version of her husband because her husband's passed away, and there's a point where she's like, I can't do this, like this isn't helping me grieve, I need to get rid of you. And she goes to a cliff and she's like, what would happen if I try to push you off a cliff? He's like, my safety barrier would switch on and I would try very hard to make you not kill me. And then she's like, all right, like I'm gonna try. And he starts being like, no, please, I love you so much, oh my god, I can't do it, I can't die, oh my god, I'm so scared. And she's just like, what the fuck.
Yeah.
So that also reminds me of what's her name on God damn. Why is it always this guy? The show with Christian Bell, where the Good Place.
Ah, do you say Kirsten Bell? I thought you said Christian Bale. I was like, he's not in The Good Place, bro. Batman is not going to heaven.
Well,
I thought of Veronica Mars for a second.
You definitely got to watch it.
Brilliant show.
It's incredible. But that thing happens as well, where they're like, "This is gonna mind wipe this robot." And he's like, "Please don't! It's gonna hurt so bad."
Yeah. Can it?
Have you had a chance to play Detroit Become Human now?
I played like the first couple of hours of it.
Why didn't you complete it?
I just didn't get around to it. I start games and don't finish them all the time. I still haven't finished Jedi Survivor, and I'm still like trying to avoid spoilers for it.
You have done that yourself.
Yeah, I put myself in this position, but I don't know. I'll finish it at some point.
No, really, like make your best effort to finish it, considering we have this conversation on our minds.
Yeah.
It's very relevant.
Detroit Become Human or Jedi Survivor?
Detroit Become Human and Jedi Survivor. Just kidding.
Well,
Detroit Become Human.
It's both of them, all of the games. I need to finish all of them. I definitely need to. But like, yeah, within this film, I think they do a great job of like world building in particular, and just introducing you to something and going like, hey, this is how it is, and now we're just gonna like tell a story within the world. I think that is really interesting. I think that, like I said, the visual effects and the practical effects blend really nicely as well, to give something that feels, you know, it's got that tactile feel, and it feels real while also having those more supernatural elements. And it does, like most other particularly Korean films that I've watched lately, ask some questions of its audience. You know, it's like, what's behind the morality of this? Like, what is actually correct or not correct here? Like, are we doing the right thing? Which I always think is really, really interesting to explore. But before we do wrap up and go on to some like cinema a la carte and do some other recommendations, do you guys have any other thoughts on the film or other points that you want to like touch on?
Really quickly, I don't know if you guys got the same feeling as I did, and this is probably only me because like the moments she's staring at Soo-youn, and then the moment she's staring at the sunlight, for some reason they did an immaculate job in making her look human. Just the eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
like
eyes.
she's in the android shell, no longer in the Jung-yi flesh thing that they had put over it. But the eyes are so human, and the way she looks at her daughter, it just, I don't know, like maybe that was wishful thinking on my part, but I just saw emotion. And I don't typically see emotion behind something that is clearly CG.
Yeah. I think that it goes to show, because I definitely agree with you. There's a lot going on in the eyes there. And it's like, we see it a lot more these days. We see so many people like acting like with their eyes and everything that they're saying. But particularly here, I think it's really interesting that you've called it out too, because the actual android itself, intentionally, the mouth doesn't move, the face doesn't move. Like there is nothing to give any indication of what it's thinking besides the eyes. And if I'm correct, one of the shots that you're referring to is like when she goes, I've wiped her daughter, she's free. And then the director is like, stop or your daughter dies. And it's almost like the shock when she looks, she's in the background. You've got, what's her name, Soo-youn, like they're talking to him. And in the background, she's just like, and it just, there's something there, which I definitely picked up on that. What about you, Choco?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, I was, my thought at first was like, oh, they took her out of the body. Like, how is she going to live or function? How is this going to work? But yeah, she was still able to act through everything with just the eyes. And the scene, like, it looked really, really well. So I don't know exactly what combination they used to make it look that good while acting, because even on Marvel's budget they struggle nowadays with something like that. So I thought that was really cool.
And I got like the most emotion out of her looking out into the sunset or the sunrise. But when I think back at that moment that you pointed out, definitely there's so much in that vacant expression that you can see through the eyes, and the eyes aren't even moving.
Yeah,
neither.
It's like,
just the same thing with the face. It's not
like,
moving.
What's happening here?
I feel like they must have filmed that partly with motion capture with the actress.
Yeah. Because
even though like the eyebrows aren't moving, everything about the face is static, you can see something behind the eyes.
Yeah.
That is of like what the hell? Like reacting like real time to what he's saying.
Remind me, I know I just like watched it today too, and I'm trying to think back to it, but like, does the robot blink and the pupils move still? Because they're not, I didn't believe they were static, right? Because that's kind of where I felt the emotion come through. Now I'm thinking back and I'm like, wait, did she blink?
I don't
did
think
the pupils move?
No, I thought the pupils moved.
Pupils probably, but then maybe no eyelids. But
no blinking. But there might have been like how cameras, when they're autofocusing, like they'll move a little bit. I think there was a little bit of that, but still, that blue outline of the pupils makes it feel like they're just statically looking, but there's a soul.
Yeah. Like,
also, I want to believe there is.
Yeah. It's one of those stories that also kind of makes you think and kind of want to know what's going to happen next as well. It's like, what? Okay, so she gets away, but like, do they keep doing this? Do they still sell her body elsewhere? I guess they deleted the data, so They can't make new versions of her, but they still have historic ones, right? Like they had a bunch of them sitting in a warehouse. Like chances are,
I think if we're thinking about a sequel or a prequel, so there was two possibilities that I can think of when it comes to continuing the story of Jung-yi, and that's a prequel, exploring the actual Jung-yi fighting in the Adrian and Republic War, Civil War, or continuing with android Jung-yi and going back for her daughter.
Yeah.
Because also that scene with the first time I saw that scene with the doctor, and he was like, "Have a nice day." I was like, "What? He's a fucking," That was freaky as hell. But that scene pointing out that she has options. I'm wondering if there is a payoff, and that's Soo-youn actually replicated her brain in some way. And the body is dead at the end, but if Jung-yi knows about whether it's been replicated and she goes to save her daughter wherever her data went.
Yeah. I could see that, because I was thinking like it's going to be hard to explore that when you've got, obviously, one, your actress isn't there anymore, but also the character in the film is dead, but we don't know if between that space that she's signed herself away as a Type C or whoever, and they can just get her and bring her back and all that. So yeah, I guess the possibilities there are endless, and they could tell a story there, but even if they don't, like, I think I'm happy with the story as it is. And you get a little bit of like even like a Rise of the Planet of the Apes towards the end too, where it's like, she's just like running off into the jungle, and I'm like, are we just gonna jump forward 20 years to when the revolution's already done and gone, and she's just a bunch of androids and her? Like, I don't know.
That's actually the first thought I had when I first watched it.
I'm glad.
Is when after everything faded and I said Jung-yi, I thought that for some reason they were just gonna freaking superimpose a line on the underscore, and it was like jungle. And then that was the second movie. I was like, oh, android in the jungle. This is her. Okay, she has to survive it now.
Dude. It's like Resident Evil and how they do the titles for Resident Evil 7 and 8 and all of that. And it's just part of it. Jungle. Amazing. You were saying, Choco?
I like when you're making a sequel or a prequel, one of and I suppose it's not always the case, but the goal typically is to continue the narrative of the original, and the moral and philosophical implications of the original to expand on that, and so I can't see anything else other than her trying to return to save her daughter, but also like I don't think she would, because that would like negate her daughter's sacrifice for her. Maybe it's just maybe they make an endless amount of movies of trying to save the daughter, and then you just and then they keep doing it and leapfrogging for eternity. That'd be dope. But other than
eternity.
Man.
Other than that, like if you tell a prequel, it's about the war. It's a different movie. It's a war film.
Yeah.
Is the interest? Did they build up enough interest in the universe to tell another movie that's connected only by the universe? Do we have enough of this warrior character that we would enjoy seeing her like swinging around on trees and stuff? I don't know.
I think we do. I mean, it depends on at what point in the war we're covering, right?
Yeah.
Like, say what I'm truly and really interested in covering that Civil War is the start of it and how she propels herself to becoming the hero, rather than like joining her as the hero and she's just already like, owning all of like the bad guys, or not even the bad guys, just her enemies.
Yeah.
And yeah, as compared to like, the war starting and like they have to like recruit people, and then you have her daughter who's
doing my part.
Would you like to know more? Yeah. And then she has her daughter, and she has like she needs money, and then she's struggling to pay for the treatment, and that's when you get her becoming a mercenary, and that's her story to becoming this like widely popular national hero.
I get all that in Solo Leveling.
Oh my gosh. I have to watch the latest one that came out today.
Is this an anime or?
Yes.
Yeah. I need to get back into
It's
anime. A
6
couple of years
episodes.
ago, I was so in, and then in Australia, they had, I think it happened everywhere, but like we had Funimation and Crunchyroll and what was the other one? Funimation, Crunchyroll. Anime Lab we had here as well. And then things just started combining and things started moving. And I was like, I am just going to wait till this settles down. And now I believe it has, but I can't be bothered.
It has. It's all on Crunchyroll now.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Crunchyroll actually asked me today and was like, "Do you wanna roll in your Funimation information?" I was like, "I don't know what that is." No.
I always say yes because my dad is everywhere anyway. But yeah, you can watch so Solo Leveling. You can watch on Crunchyroll. It's like six episodes in.
Yeah.
It's it's your classic kind of like weak boy turns strong, but it's very the way it's done. I can't really.
More like weak boy turns sexy.
Some of my life story. Nice. I'm kidding.
But it starts out very terrifying. I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. I'll add it to the list. But with that, probably not a bad time to segue into our cinema a la carte section. So I'd love for you guys to, having seen this film, think on, like, are there other films that you would recommend to someone in terms of, essentially the idea here for new listeners is that we become your, what does King call it? The cinema connoisseurs. And the idea is that, cinema sommeliers is what he calls us. And the idea is that you've got your main course here and we are determining some pairings for you, like a glass of wine and a nice cheese to go with your steak. And I've got a couple that I've written down here as well. And then as we've been talking, I've been thinking about all the other ways that's kind of the other things that have tied into this film. But I'm going to stick with my two. But I'm wondering, like, if either one of you can go first, but do you have other recommendations or things that you might recommend to someone who likes this film? Or if someone hasn't seen the film yet, something you might recommend to them as, if you've seen this, then you might like Jungle.
Rebel Moon? I'm just kidding.
If you like Rebel Moon, your bar is so low you'll like anything. So check out The Room by Tommy Wiseau.
I really need to think on this because there are movies that I actually attribute to this particular genre, this particular kind of like Archive is one of them.
Archive.
Have you ever seen Archive? With Theo James?
No, I haven't.
I mean, it's based like if you look at the movie poster for Archive, it's like, oh look, there's Jung-yi on the left.
What a cool design for an android, though.
Are you seeing it now?
Yeah, I can see it there. Okay, that's in my list as well. That sounds dope. So you were saying, so Archive stands out to you in what sense? Like, what kind of ties it to this film? Just the look, or?
So it has a very similar question of ethics. This person is literally like sequestered have you seen it, Choco?
No.
This person is like sequestered in like this hideaway cabin that has been designed to study robotics and AI. And like for lack of a more detailed explanation, because I haven't seen this in like a long time, there arises the question of whether or not, like, should they be doing this or should they not? Like, do they deserve freedom? Or it's all a question of like the impact on the freedoms of the AI or the robot, and do they have any?
Yeah, that. That sounds dope.
And there's another one that I also made. It was,
I was thinking there was one that I was going to talk to, but it's a film, like, there was a film you recommended me a couple of weeks ago that we talked about that kind of also, not in the same way, but does kind of dive into humanity and some of the shitty decisions we make, and is also Korean. So there's an easy one for you as well.
Which one?
The Concrete Utopia.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that, Choco?
No, you guys are coming up with all this cool stuff, and like, man,
you just gotta start writing stuff down on the list.
So my second one, even though it's kind of like a B movie,
perfect.
It's
Love
still it's the core of it though is
the core.
What draws
Great
me
film.
in. It's called The Machine, and it stars Katie Lotz.
Okay, yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one.
I feel like I've seen it and purged it from my memory.
Is this the one that came out last year?
No, this is 2013.
Oh, okay. Because I looked up The Machine, and there's a movie with Mark Hamill in it.
So I mean, I'll read the first. I'll read the first sentence of the synopsis, and you can gather why it is apropos of this conversation. In efforts to construct a perfect android killing machine in a war against China, UK scientists exceed their goal and create a sentient robot.
Damn. Yeah, sick.
So
I would watch Katie Lotz as a robot. That sounds fantastic.
Yes,
yeah, sold.
That's number one. Yes to Katie Lotz, but also, like I said, it's a B movie. It's not winning awards. It actually scored higher than Jung-E in IMDb, but it's an enjoyable story if you consume the story. Obviously, there are films like that where like you're like, where did they get this director or something? It's like some things aren't shot well, but otherwise it's Katie Lotz. It's a nice little story about, androids and ethics and stuff like that, and the way they treat someone's body. And so those are the two things: Archive and The Machine.
Awesome, really great choices. Have you thought of a couple, Choco, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, like I mentioned before, you added to your list, The Final Cut. Is it's one of Robin Williams' serious movies, and I already explained the synopsis of it. But then the other movies that came to mind, I feel so obvious that everyone's seen, like, Ex Machina, and
stole my picture. How dare you? It's okay. I have other ones, but it's a great connection. Like, that film is not just taking the question of, like, the ethics, but, like, putting it in a documentary. Like, we're studying this. What does it mean? Is she human? I want you to figure it out.
Also, not Ghost in the Shell, but not the Scarlett Johansson one. I have not seen it. I've not seen that, but
that's the only one I have seen.
She's not my favorite Asian actor, but yeah, that was a weird choice.
Yeah. Just
also, the
a
one that
weird
came out
choice of
recently
actors and a
people
weird choice of thing to talk to. Sorry to cut you off, but like to go. But it's okay because she's like 1/8 Japanese, so it's fine.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, if you put 80 of her in a room, it would make one Japanese person. Yeah.
Is that how genetics work?
I think so.
No, I like when people are like, I'm 1/16 of this. And you're like, so if there were 16 of you, it'd be one of those people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's nothing. Stop it. You're not Cherokee, Karen.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I question the mathematics of that, though. It's like, if you put 16 in that person and and then it makes one of them, you still have 16 more of that person.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, you grab 16 of them, and then you slice out the German parts to make one German Choco, and another 16 parts to make one, like, Native American Choco, and another one to make, like, a Mexican one, and then eventually you just have all of these mishmash Picasso versions of Choco that are all different nationalities.
But since they're all clones, it would always be the same part.
Yeah.
It's just a ball of ears over here.
Literally, dude.
Okay. But I was gonna say the creator.
Oh, dude, yeah. Came out last year.
Who's in that?
John David Washington, directed by Gareth Edwards, who directed Rogue One, and cameoed in The Last Jedi. Just saying.
Yes. Salt.
Gemma Chan. Yes.
Mummy Chan.
.exe.
Yeah. Mommy.exe. That's some of my best work. Yeah, honestly, like great choices, Choco. I've actually added the final cut to my list already, and I think the creator is a really great one that's also come out like recently. And funnily enough, showed up on like the recommended or related films on like the Letterboxd page for this too. So like it does tie in and also asks those questions, particularly in the space of like a child too. Like, hey, this is a weapon. So yeah, I like that. I have 2 films for this as well. I had Ex Machina, but I had some other backup ones, so I'll use those instead. But I thought Blade Runner 2047 is like the... what's the word? Like the fine cuisine version of this. It's like it grabs all of those things and just slows them and goes, you know what? I slow cooked this steak for 18 hours for you to enjoy, while also having, you know, the main story is a character trying to determine what is he. So it's almost from the other perspective. And I thought Ex Machina also does quite a bit of that too in how it presents itself. But also one.
Why did you go with the original Blade Runner then?
I love the original Blade Runner. I mean,
I feel
the
like
final edit.
The original is better than 2047.
I could see that.
Yeah,
like,
it kind
I
of
find
depends on when you recommend movies. There's some people that don't do old movies for some reason.
True.
I kind of have a cap on how old I like to go, unless it's like a genre.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some stuff.
I just feel like.
So you go.
I feel like. What's his character's name? Rutger Hauer's character.
Decker.
No, that's Harrison Ford. The replicant's name.
Oh man, this is gonna shit me. Hold on 1 second. I need to Google like tears in rain.
Beatty.
I can't remember.
Where is
it? Beatty?
Nah, just looking up. We'll let him cook.
Literally, all of these things just have the quote. They don't say. It says the quote. Oh, here we go. Roy Batty, played by Rutger Hauer, delivers what is known as the Tears in Rain speech.
Tears of the Rain. I think that encompasses the entirety of the question of whether or not these things are human. These things can, like, feel, and should they be treated as second class?
Yeah.
You know. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite quotes, and obviously for the reasons that it is propelled in cinema history as Tears in the Rain.
I was gonna say, like, it is one of the best like monologues in cinema history. Like it is brilliant.
I don't call it a monologue. It's just 2 sentences.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's the best 2 sentences you can say to someone who is like, "Should I kill you?" And they're like, "I've seen attack ships off the attack ships on fire on the something Orion."
Yeah.
I've watched sea beams collapse.
Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I've watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Yeah.
Delicious.
That's it, man.
But I think that it does, like, either film is great to kind of bookend, like this one. And I guess, in the moment, I think similar to what Choco was saying, I think I thought, like, recommending the newer version of it is going to probably resonate with more people. More people may have seen 2047 than the original. And I've talked to people about the original that just didn't resonate with it as much because, I don't know, like, they have bad taste. I'm kidding. No, but Joseph also said in chat that you had the wrong element about the Blade Runner sequel, which, I mean, I think that if you put back to back, I like the first one more than the second as well, but also depends on how I'm feeling on the day. Like, I went and saw both of them in IMAX, and I left afterwards, and I was like, 2047 is better because I got to see it in IMAX, which was great.
I don't know why it says learn more about the U.S. election with us.
Honestly, who knows? Who knows? Last week we did an episode with Divas, and we were talking about the US election there a little bit, so that could be why. But who knows? They think we're a politics channel now. But I think there was that, and the other one was Alita Battle Angel. Like, it's not one of the best films I've ever seen, and I think it probably falls more into like the closer to like the junk food aspect of it. But it's like, it's got really cool action. It's got this idea of, you know, like memory gone and not really sure who I am and trying to figure it out, and those. And then I think that any one of those are great jumping off points to come to this film or go to from this film. So yeah,
I appreciate what they tried to do with Alita. But you know, circling back to Jung-E, those eyes in comparison to Alita's eyes, night and day.
It's like they're fake out, but they feel realer.
They look realer, but the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
And then like with Jung-E, it's like they look like android eyes. They look just very stationary, but you get soul.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like, I'm just pointing that out. Like the first time I saw Alita, I was like, it
was pretty jarring.
Oh, this is actually kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Like they tried to incorporate the anime style into like reasons why it's like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is jarring, yes, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Well, like, yeah, great choices, guys. I've got a few things that I've added to my list as well, which is good. And if you're listening again, I hope you added some new films to your list there too. And I hope you enjoyed the episode as well. Before we do just wrap up, thank you again so much for joining us to Dyad in the Force, guys. Yeah, definitely check out the podcast. You've got their links in the descriptions below as well. But maybe if you guys want to wrap up quickly and let listeners know where they can find you and what they can expect to find if they follow you over there. Choco, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm Darth Choco on TikTok, Darth Choco on YouTube, Darth Choco7 on Twitter, and that's all you need to know because I don't really use the other places, even though I plan to. I just don't. But yeah, here we talk about Star Wars, whatever is new that's popping off, and just any other things I'm interested in. So sometimes it's going to be anime, sometimes it'll be comic books or pop culture, or laughing at Gina Carano for the stupidest lawsuit of all time. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
That was a thing. That was a thing that happened. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But what about you, Pep? Where can we find you?
That's not gonna play out. You can find me on @_element7_ on TikTok, Dyad in the Force on YouTube, which is just our joint channel where everything the Dyad exists, including our Dyad in the Force podcast every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific, to which we had a new episode today. So if you look up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, the newest episode is on there if you missed it. And I'm also @_element7_ on Twix.
Hell yeah.
Even though I don't use it either. But I exist there.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to get @element7 no underscores on Threads.
Damn, man. Damn.
And I did score @element7 as well, no underscores on Blue Sky. But that's just me kind of looking at like the climate of social media and just clicking sign up. Just get my name, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and obviously you guys can find one with the films we stream generally at the same time each week. We actually kick off around about the time that Dyad in the Force ends. So if you like checking them out and then you want to talk about movies after, I mean, feel free to dive on over. You know, we'll be here. We'll be enjoying it. And you can find me at On Second Thought. Basically you've got links in the description for all of us as well, just FYI. However, you can find me the easiest ways on Instagram and then using the link tree there to find all the others, because On Second Thought has zeros somewhere and underscores in other places, so the link tree is the best way if you want to find anywhere else. And I took film, TV, and Star Wars on my own channels, and then also we've got our joint channels for One with the Films as well. And you've also got links in the description for Kate or Movie Man Opinions, who's the other co-host who's not here today. But he talks Dungeons and Dragons and movies and Bad Batch a lot right now. So yeah, we have a plan to try and convince them to do a screening of the finale in cinemas, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. We wanted to do a thing where I was like, all right, I'll do like one push-up for every person that like retweets this and tags Jennifer Corbett, and hoping that like pops off, and then I have to do 1 million push-ups, which I'm doing like a fitness challenge for work right now, so hopefully that helps me get bigger and maybe get a Bad Batch streaming. We'll see. But as promised, we'll be revealing the name of our next guest and our next film. And we've actually got Sawyerism joining us next week. And we're going to be talking about the movie The Room by Tommy Wiseau, which
she found her outlet finally.
I was like, that's not surprising at all.
Oh, that's the
I
best
swear
reaction.
to God, like her whole personality for a year straight was like, I need to find someone to talk to me about The Room.
Yeah. So it's funny, like we were trying to choose a film and she sent that and I was like, nah, I've seen it, and like Movie Man's seen it. And then we like struggled to think of other ones, and then I started thinking back to it and I was like, I haven't seen The Room. I've seen like YouTube videos and essays and like The Disaster Artist and read the book, and like I've seen so much about The Room, but I've never sat down and just watched it start to finish. And I was talking to Movie Man, and he was like,
Room with Brie Larson.
Same. So it ended up working out that like we get to watch that movie for the first time all the way through. So that's going to be really interesting, and I'm really hyped for that. And yeah, I just seem really passionate about the film too. I think it's going to be a really fun chat. So if you guys haven't seen The Room, definitely give it a watch this week. It is the greatest film of all time. And then, yeah, come and check us out afterwards. You will love it. But that being said, I did get an email from Keegan's friend Raglan with... He tends to leave us with these beautiful thoughts, you know, like he puts a lot of thought into what he wants to say as we sign off each week. And what Raglan said to me in this email is, when life gives you lemons... Actually, that's not what he said. Oh, when you actually see the full length of it too, when you see the full quote in a moment, you'll understand that it kind of applies to me in this moment too. But what Raglan told me is, when life gives you melons, you could be dyslexic.